There we go. We are live with Tom Konkle. He has just made this really cool noir film, maybe a neo-noir film called Trouble Is My Business. I've watched it twice already. Welcome to the show. Welcome to my channel, Tom.
Thank you for having me, Travis. I'm so pleased that you watched it twice. Wow, yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah, it's the end of a pretty amazing journey. As you probably know, I've been working on it for a long time. It's part of the triangle. You either have time, money, or quality. And so without a lot of money, it takes a lot of time. So I picked those two, and we released it on the 3rd, which was last Tuesday.
That's right. Yeah, and I'd watched a lot of the sort of behind-the-scenes stuff you were releasing on your Facebook page. Yeah. So I knew as soon as it was available digitally that I would download watch it. And yeah, I watched it twice because I think it's really interesting what you do with the green screen work, and it shows people what you can do with someone who knows CG and a little bit of green screen, and you can pull off some storylines you normally wouldn't be able to afford.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I wanted to make a film, and the question was, do you wait and see if you can get an old mansion? Do you pay $10,000 a day to use a nice hotel, or do you just go, you know what? I'd rather have a movie and certainly value engineer the backgrounds to what I can afford to do, or do I sit around and talk about doing a film? And I didn't want to do what a lot of people do for micro budget stuff, which is clearly not, a period film, or it's usually what I call the blue jeans and t-shirt. It's two guys on a sofa with blue jeans and t-shirt, and a zombie walks in or something. I wanted to try something different. And so the compromise was that I had to look at what I could find and shoot on location. And I'd say a 1/3 of the film is on location. All the cemetery stuff is real. That's the last 40s diner in LA, really. It's called the Nickel Diner that we shot in. All the office sets are real. There's a lot of quote unquote real locations, but there's some places that were not a practical reality. I either did set extensions when I was sort of directing it and staging it. I wanted to stage the scenes in such a way that I had some flexibility, and having green screen digital sets gave me the ability to compose shots or to augment shots that frankly I wouldn't have had if I was on location, even if I had a big budget.
Mm-hmm. That diner I thought was green screen at first, but I'm like, oh, okay, it's a real one. But
this lady who owns it was kind enough to let us in there. They're famous for their donuts. They're called the Nickel Diner down in LA. And here's an interesting story. Someone had built another store inside of it, so they'd simply put walls in front of the 40s walls and all the furniture. So when she bought it, she actually did demolition on the walls and found that diner behind it. So it was a building within a building. So those walls and all that stuff was preserved inside. Right. And so Molly, who was helping me find locations, was like, you got to go look at this place. And I scouted it, and I just fell in love with the place. But the interesting thing is, I thought to myself, a mistake a lot of people make is if you get a location like that, you tend to go a little nuts. You're like, well, I have to cover everything. It's this beautiful 40s diner. It looks amazing. But it hurts the film if you do that, because if we really were in 1947, that would be a commonplace location. And so ultimately I shot mostly as I wanted to shoot, an intimate conversation where you almost see the focus dropping off at the ears. It's like a 50mm lens.
Yeah, you're really tight.
And it feels like an intimate conversation because the world drops away. You're sitting here talking to Brittany's character. Of course you wouldn't see any of the other stuff and you wouldn't feel it. You'll notice that when someone intrudes into the space, suddenly you see the diner and you feel it and you see some of the production design of it. But you don't do this, because in the 40s they wouldn't be like, ooh, look, we're at a 40s diner, how cool. So I tried to make it feel very casual. So some people were like, you have this location and you shot all close-ups except for a few things. I'm like, yes, because the story demands it. It's an intimate conversation, and that diner would have been one of hundreds at the time. So you have to really, the producer in you goes, I have this great space, I really should shoot the hell out of it and get every angle, you know, you possibly can. But the artist and the story demands that, well, no, this is a conversation where things drop away. When they get conspiratorial, everything kind of falls out of focus. And I only want to feel the space encroach when someone walks up, or if he has something that he says that's really dangerous, where he's like, hey, I think people are onto you. Suddenly you notice, you feel that whole room. So it was an exercise in restraint. When you had no budget, but you got a beautiful location like that, you don't compromise what you want to shoot simply because you had it.
Yeah, and I guess on a low budget too, you don't want to be there too long because you can then go off shoot something else. So
exactly, we had it for a day, and so I went the day before, and actually that's where I came up with the tracking shot. One of my favorite reveals is Lou has been listening in on them, and as she gets up to leave, the camera just repositions, and you realize, as usual, he's always there. He always had a flourish for an exit. He's either flipping his hat onto his head, or he does the coin in the diner. And I wanted his introductions to always have some flourish, because he's supposed to be the guy where style over substance. He cuts a fine figure of a man, is what the character says about him. And I was like, well, he needs to have theatrical ins and outs as a character. So by going
the hat flip.
Yes, the hat flip, got that on the first take. I had him rehearse for a couple of hours, and I told the camera guy we're going to go boom, boom, boom. Just follow it. So Dave stuck his foot into the hat. It went up, into the hand, onto the head perfectly, first take. And he just, you could tell in his face a little bit, he's like, I can't believe this worked first take. And then he exits out, and then the whole crew went, whoa! We got it. It could have been a take that lasted an hour. And,
oh, yeah, it could be 30, 100 takes.
Oh, yeah, Dave's professionalism, he got it on the first take.
Yeah, and you've worked with Dave on a lot of your projects.
Yes, Dave and I have, we started off performing live together. We did almost 100 live shows touring around. We used to have Dave and Tom. We were a fake British comedy team. And we did a bunch of original shows. We also did Beyond the Fringe, the Peter Cook, Dudley Moore thing. Then we started writing our own shows. Our last live show was called Dave and Tom's, a tribute to Dave and Tom, where we did a retrospective of our own stuff and then killed ourselves. And then we started doing stuff online, I guess in 2008, 2009. We started with the Safety Geeks. We did my favorite, which is Invention with Brian Forbes. And then we did a bunch of little one-off comedy stuff. So we've been doing stuff together for 18 years.
Now, why the switch from web series? Because that's how I found you with Safety Geeks. I was just like so impressed by the production value. Like, I remember that ship coming down. Like, oh, this guy's really embracing, you know, CG and green screens. And I really got interested in that show. But why go from the web series now to doing a film?
I think the money path was a lot clearer, and the access, discovery was a lot easier with the film. I knew how I would make my money back. So the same amount of work that, say, went into Safety Geeks, and then you throw it up, you know, and it's free, versus selling a movie to a distributor like we did, where the money path is very clear. The work made more sense, and having somebody push it for us made a huge difference. And I think, as much as I loved doing the web stuff, as soon as it became very difficult to sort of move through all the coal to find some diamonds, you know, we didn't have the backing that we needed. When they stopped recommending things in the comedy section, we went from having millions of views to hundreds of views.
This is on YouTube?
Yeah, on YouTube. And that was really the only platform we had any foothold in. Coldcast went out of business. That was the original company that we had it on. Vimeo just doesn't have any views. So, and it got, you know, it was on a few other platforms like Blip that it got a lot of views on that just disappeared when they went out of business. So when it stopped making money, it stopped making sense.
Exactly, because it costs money to make this stuff.
Yes, and time. Something as effects heavy as Safety Geeks, every shot was a composite. So, you know, it was a very ambitious show. I'm really proud of it. It's a goofy show. It was Archer before there was an Archer. You know, and I loved that. I love that sense of humor. I wanted to do a live action Adult Swim, and I think we did it, but there was no compelling reason to do another one. I don't think the audience for it warranted it. There wasn't enough demand, and there wasn't a clear money path. So I did a course correction about 3 years ago, and I said, where if you do A, is there at least a chance that B will happen, that some money can come back? and where that was independent film.
Right. And I think a lot of web series creators have sort of followed suit, where it was really tough to make money. Like I had sponsors on episodes of Spell Fury. My goal was to have a sponsor on every episode of Spell Fury, and I did it, but I was just barely barely getting by.
Exactly.
And it was
and yeah, you had a great show, and finding discovery of it, you know, I enjoyed it, everything, but what do? You know, like how do you take it from the realm of being something you love to do to a business?
Right.
You know, and I think only a few people have, and it's interesting, they've all transitioned to what we used to call traditional media to make their, so you know, I had to, Pithy just kind of couldn't sustain. I had never brought home a paycheck from Pithy, and after 5 years of that, I couldn't do it anymore because I was devoting all my time to something.
Yeah. Same with me. It was Spell Fury had to stop just because it was taking up all my time. I was just barely getting by with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's our art, and we love doing it, but it has to make sense at some point. And the movie required such discipline in order for me to do it, because, you know, it was a very ambitious shoot. It had all these things, but a lot of the people from it, the entire cast practically from Safety Geeks, is in Trouble Is My Business.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Well, that gives you that instant chemistry because you've worked with them so many times that.
Exactly.
You know, yeah. Now I teach actually at the college on Fridays, like a green screen class where we have students, you know, doing scenes, and then we put them in Paris. And I'm always telling them, you know, you can write a scene on the moon if you're good with green screens. So they get free Adobe software packages, the Creative Suite, and I train them in that. But I might show some of your stuff to them.
Great.
Maybe this interview, and say, this is what you can do with this stuff. And some of the stuff is like really incredible. A scene that sticks out is there's trolleys in the back. I think Dave.
Yes, those are reproductions of the LA cable car system, even down to the color scheme.
Mm-hmm. It was really well done.
Yeah, thank you. Michael Smith, who is my executive producer with me, is a big fan as well of transportation modes. He loves old trains, he loves old planes and things. And for us, the challenge was, how do we make, again, a casual background that works as a authentic feel? It's just one cable car going through a vehicle, a car, anything gives away a location and a time period faster than anything, and that just made sense. Those cable cars, and also Trip Brock at Monkeyland did the sound mix on it, and adding the clang of the trolley going by in the stereo mix. It's a 5.1 mix, so you actually hear the trolley go by you and around you. It sells that graphic really well.
Yeah, and I think it was the shine off the trolleys there really.
Yes.
I'm like,
it reflects back nicely, and those kinds of details are what put the object in there. Can you give me one break? My dog is scratching. Come in. I have to just.
Yep, no problem.
Hello there, Emmy.
So you can rent Tom's film. Let's see. I've got a big list here. It's on YouTube. That's where I did it. It's really easy. Yes. To put your credit card in, and you're away to the races. And you have 48 hours to start it.
Yeah. You can watch it in HD. It is on a couple platforms. iTunes, obviously. You can download it, and you have physical media, which I'm a big fan of. They have an HD and SD version. There is a Blu-ray coming out, and there is a DVD out. There is a color and black and white version on those. It's a double disc set. The black and white experience is amazing because the black and white integrates the whole environment and makes even the faces more dreamy. It has a distancing effect. And in the case of our film, black and white is not simply the absence of color. We retimed the film. There's actually a different lighting plot, a different look to the film. It's almost a silvery black and white. So it's a different experience watching it. I'm flying to Virginia today to show it at the Angelica Film Center in Virginia, in Falls Church, in black and white.
Oh, wow.
So putting it up on a big regular movie screen is going to have that dreamlike quality, and I think it works incredibly well in black and white. And then some of the other platforms I love that we got on are FandangoNow, Google Play, VUDU. We're on Amazon Instant Video, a bunch of different places. So there's a lot of places you can discover it, a lot of places you can buy the DVD, and that makes me very grateful. That's Random Media and The Orchard, which is our distributor.
Okay, now will you be able to rent the black and white version on YouTube?
They do not accept in streaming platforms a black and white product.
Oh wow!
We
okay.
have tried and tried.
I'd like to actually see it in black and white just to see. I think it would blend the CG stuff with the live stuff better. Like a.
I agree. I agree. Yeah. My biggest frustration coming out of this was that I could only convince them to release it on Blu-ray and black and white. Not that the distributor wasn't enthusiastic; they were. From all of the venues like iTunes, VUDU, none of them would put up the black and white because they thought it would be off-putting or people would perceive it as an old movie. And there's this weird thing, like I know on even Netflix now, they have a policy not to put any movie on that's pre-1960. Oh. You can't. Yeah, if you go on Netflix, you cannot find anything before what's his name, Reed, before he was born is gone. And they won't show black and white. And so as much as I would like to, I think if it only was in black and white, it would be an even more limited release, which would have hurt our pocketbook. So I shot it in color because this might be helpful for your students as well. As even if it was going to be black and white, obviously it had to be shot in color for the compositing. You need the chroma information,
right?
Registration marks in color. So I had an eye to a color timed version, and I found I think it was around 5600K that it started to have that sepia. So everything was timed around in that area to make it look more integrated. But I always wanted it to be black and white, and the black and white would have been like a last stage that Mike Smith and I would have put it through to when we did some research with distributors when we were sort of courting them, and we said, hey, it's a noir, and it's, we wanted it to be like if you pulled the book off the shelf, what was it that was appealing about and white? And it was like, oh, it's in black and white. And what? Oh yeah, well, no, we wouldn't. So we showed them the same film in color, and they all took it.
Oh, okay.
Which I think was an interesting experiment. Yeah.
Well, you got to make money on it, right? You still want it to be like a little.
And you want someone to see it. Yeah. It's like the difference between it being on 14 platforms and one was huge to me, because I know Mad Max Fury Road eventually came out in black and white and sold well. Even Logan was out in a black and white Blu-ray. I have them.
Okay.
And so I'm doing the dual disc. So if you really want to experience it, physical media, ironically, it's the old school, was a 23-year-old technology like DVD, and you can still see the film.
Sure. Okay. Now, okay, so the process, because with my students, we shoot a lot of green screen stuff. Mm-hmm. Can you run them through how you handle that as a director?
The first consideration is how can you make your actors look like they're in an environment that is realistic? How do you stay the actors within that environment? Anything has to physically be there. You really can't just put digital props in people's hands and things. So you look at the staging of a scene and you say, okay, they're physically going to need a prop chair. They're going to physically pick this item up. That needs to be there, even if it's sitting on a green box. Then you go, how much motion are you going to have? Is it a lockdown shot, or are you going to be tracking it? If there's tracking, then I tend to shoot a little bit wide, and we shot the film in 4K. It's actually a native 4K film, which is very rare in an independent film. And you shoot a little bit wide so that you get more tracking registration marks, which are the little X's that are slightly different in color that tell the computer when things are moving. So everything's shot that way with an idea that I'm going to do a reframe. I'm going to blow up the frame a little bit back to what I intended. So I'll mark the monitor that I'm watching the footage on to show what it will really look like. And I'll have another monitor that's a little bit looser that shows the registration marks that sometimes are outside the frame, so that when an actor passes through, you don't want him to block, or her to block the X's behind their head. And so with those considerations, then you go, the most important step is how do you get the actors to sell the effect or the environment they're in? Because if they don't believe it, we've all seen films where we go, that actor doesn't even know what they're looking at. They don't even know where they are. An overly green screen show can feel empty because it's sort of minimalist theater at that point. And so I talked to them about what it looks like. You have some look dev pictures, look and development type pictures. This is the room you're in. You have a fireplace behind you. It's warm, it's wood, you have curtains, it's nighttime, it's this or that. Well, I'll brief them all so that in their mind, it's the theater of the mind that they're creating, but you believe it if they believe that they're in that space. And I think that's a step that technicians miss out on. They're like, well, let's have the actors do their thing or whatever. But being an actor, I know how that feels. It can feel very hollow and you feel a bit lost, like, okay, look over here, look surprised. It's like, at what? You know? And so I try and really make the technical step of it. One of the most important ones is that actors sell the effects in anything. And when you're green screening, you're simply creating, if you go back to ancient times, you're creating the scenes and the flats that would come through, that when you go, here I am in Verona, and suddenly Verona slides in behind you. Well, that physically being there changes the actor. He feels like he's there. She feels like she's in Rome. And so that's the second step. The third step is the most time consuming, which is rotoscoping, which is removing anything around an actor that you know, needs to be matted out, or if there's something intruding in the frame, like a microphone or anything. Sometimes you have to roto individual hairs. If they have a light hair against green, you have to paint each one of those out, and that's 24 every second that you have to do. Then you create a tracking map of the room. Either it's a lockdown shot and you light it matching the lighting plot that you use to light the principals. And often I'll stage something where, if I think performance is, you know, 2 faces east, so you have 2 faces looking at the camera, she looking forward, someone behind them, and then you change that here, well, the light's going to change on their faces, and you want to know how that light is going to be reflected on the backgrounds as well. So you find out your lighting plot, your key, and your fill, and you duplicate that with the staging of what's going on. And then a final pass would be an integration pass, where you go ahead and color time it so that the backgrounds and the foregrounds all look like they live in the same thing. Often if you put a grain pass on something, you create a second layer of grain, which then the eye is fooled because the grain is all moving in the same direction. So it goes, oh, well, that background and that person must be in the same place because I'm getting a little bit of organic movement over both of them. So that's a very long answer to your question.
They'll appreciate that. No, it's
yeah.
Now, what are you using for software? Are you doing After Effects for tracking, or?
No, I'm not doing After Effects. It's a combination. It's Nuke, it's Fusion, it's Lightwave. There's a little bit of Maya. The whole thing was color timed in a DaVinci. Okay. So once shots were rendered, we actually created a render farm, so you would send 1 shot to each one. Otherwise, it would be hours for 1 shot. So we actually chained together 6 computers, all dedicated to rendering 1 frame each. And so we call it, it's not a render farm, it's a render petting zoo. It's a little bit smaller than you'd have with a regular render farm, but
yeah, where you'd have factories filled with computers.
Exactly. And because Mike keeps the file system so well organized, it's very easy for us to do changes. Well, very easy, easier to do changes after we've seen the render, because you have to wait. It's like the old days where you waited for the film to come back and be developed. Well, you have to wait to see how the rendered shot is.
What about what did you shoot it on?
We shot it on the Red and a Panasonic. We did a combination. Often I'd have 2 cameras running. Sometimes the Panasonic system was smaller and able to get, those cars were real. So anytime we're in an old car or in a confined space, sometimes the Red was not conducive. The fan on it is very loud. And often the sensor, you know, on the Red did not give me the level of detail that the Panasonic did. And so we had primes on the Red, and we shot a lot of the office stuff with the Red, and then we mixed in the Panasonic on certain locations where it made sense, especially low light.
What Panasonic was it?
It's the GH4.
GH4. Okay. Yep.
Native 4K. We didn't. We didn't record to the camera. We actually recorded out to Shoguns.
Yep.
So the Shogun recorded in 4K.
Nice.
So we have a 4K version of the film. I'm not sure what we can do with it. I know 4K markets are starting to open up, and we're certainly going to do a 4K version, which would be 4K on disc and 4K streaming. There just doesn't seem to be impetus to do it unless someone pays us.
I'm surprised YouTube doesn't do a rental in 4K, because you can release them 4K and watch them 4K. But
you would think, but yeah, doing 4K is so labor intensive that there would have to be a financial component to justify doing it.
Yeah, well, it's so taxing on your computers. You're 4 times HD, so it's just 4 times the,
Yeah. Plus, you need to get 4K monitors for every single thing you're looking at to make sure that it's okay. So by the time I buy the 4K monitors, buy the extra memory, we're looking at thousands of dollars. It would cost about $7,000 to $8,000 to finish a 4K version.
Okay, so what are you going to do next? What's your next big project after this?
I'm developing something right now. It's a space opera, actually. It's a kind of throwback to everything's getting so grim dark. I'm kind of looking around at the things. I was like, wouldn't it be fun to do a swashbuckling space opera that is not grim and dark, or hey, we went darker with this one, but actually went the other direction and kind of had that original feeling you got when you watched an Errol Flynn film. And so I actually have a sizzle reel that I'm taking with me to the Nova Fest in Virginia that I'm going to talk to some people about, but I'm going to start pitching that. I have a slate of 5 different films that I would like to do in the next couple of years. If any one of those goes, they're all sort of equally developed, but any one of those I could jump on board and be very happy to be working on. They're all really good ideas, including a sequel to Trouble called The Black Book.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah, because I noticed that through, like, there was the Diamond, of course, and then there's also the book. There's the two what's it called? The Hitchcock's
MacGuffins.
The MacGuffin.
Yeah, and actually, interestingly, and this doesn't really give anything away, but the whole point of that movie was that information is more valuable than things. Lou, his ex-partner, makes that point really well in a scene in a car. And I found that fascinatingly relevant to now, where the diamond, yes, you have this huge diamond, but you couldn't go and do anything with it. But the information in that black book is invaluable, and we live in an information age now where literally the information we have about each other, about things, is more valuable than the most priceless diamond, because you can ruin lives. Everything's there, and who controls information controls the world.
So would Lou be the star of that, or is your character somehow?
Yeah, it would be. Well, you didn't actually see me.
That's right. And again, I should talk about any type of spoilers, so
spoiler alert.
Yeah. Please rent it. Everyone who's going to watch this is going to rent it, so you don't have to worry.
That's right. So maybe we cut that. I don't know. But the Lou Archer story would be, now that you have information, obviously there's still people around, including the Russian mafia. And Jennifer, and a lot of different people that would want that information back. And what happens when a guy has a character change like he did? He started off one way and ended another. He felt differently. Obviously, he did something that even he didn't think he would do at the end. He ends up being someone that we didn't expect. And then what happens to him now that he is the target? He has a target painted on him. And it would be interesting to explore that noir verse and kind of what happens to him and what happens to information, because it doesn't end with one character.
Right, and you've already spent so much time and effort, like years and years and years, building this world. It'd be nice to build on the world, right? Yeah,
it would be fun to play in it again, especially with everything that I've learned. I'm still learning as a director, I'm learning as an actor, and certainly as a writer. How do you take everything that was a time capsule of who I was, 2 or 3 years ago, and how do you move that forward and improve on it and make a better version? And I've built this team of great people that, from costumes to the DP to sound to music, the music I love. What do I do? How do we play and make a better, sequel? So I would love to do something like that. Again, it would be only warranted if the response was there. would want to see some audience feedback. And people are like, hey, I liked it. I would watch another one, and that would be the impetus for me to make something.
Right. And if you make a lot of money off of it, obviously, hey,
it would make sense. Yeah, I'm not expecting to, but if it does happen, that would be lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully, yeah, people watching, check it out. We should wrap things up, but yeah, I'd like to talk to you for another hour, but
we can do it again sometime. Absolutely.
Yeah, you'll keep me in touch with what you're up to. This cool Star Warsian sizzle reel. I'd like to see.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I will definitely keep everyone up. I'm going to have a new Luminactus site where we list all the projects that we were going to be doing, and that'll be among them. We just finished the sizzle reel for it. It looks beautiful, and the cast would be great. So that one I'm excited about. I'm excited about the sequel. There's 2 other ones you might really dig. So I'm hoping to do that. We'll see how this one does. Right now I'm kind of in the mode of making people aware. I just wanted to wrap this up by saying thank you, and how difficult it is without a lot of money to have discovery. That is everything. And I've learned that my learning curve has been like this, to try and figure out, you make something and it's decent, it's reasonably good. How do you get people to find it? How, with all the noise and everyone's clamoring for the same amount of attention, how do I get Trouble Is My Business to be seen? And doing this kind of thing and talking about it, I'm so grateful for, because so few people give you an opportunity to have your work seen and shine a light on it. So I appreciate every criticism, every interview. So thank you so much, Travis.
Yeah, no problem. And let's end the show, because we didn't really do tell the audience what the movie's about and where they can rent it.
Well, the movie is about everybody's experience. Film noir is pretty much having a friend that you know is hooking up with someone bad. You warn him about it. You see him heading for that brick wall. You know they're heading for that brick wall, and he hits it anyway. That's film noir, and it's relatable as a human thing. Only in a society as rich as America can you be as cynical as film noir. And so Trouble's My Business is a love letter to that noir attitude, storytelling, and characters. And it's about a guy named Roland Drake. He's a down and out private investigator, and he meets 2 sisters. One's dead, and the other one wants to kill him. I know what happens.
There you go. And you can get it on YouTube. It was so easy to rent. Also, you said Fandango.
Yes. It's on Xbox. You can get it on your Xbox, VUDU, iTunes, Amazon. If you go to troubleismy.biz, B-I-Z, it has all of the places that you can get it. And soon it'll be on cable as part of the in-demand network.
Oh, nice. Oh, cool. Yeah. Right on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Tom, thank you so much for your time. Audience, please rent the movie, support independent film, and I will talk to you soon, buddy. Good luck.
Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you all.